This is Pete LaBeouf, Chapter 20 Video Reassessment. I did problem number 70 out of the textbook for Chapter 20. And this problem, it doesn't have any calculations, but what it does do, it works a lot with the figure that was shown. There's a lot that I can do with it, that I can talk about with it, so I felt like I would have a better chance of actually getting a better grade talking about the conceptual stuff that I know, rather than just showing calculations and showing how to get an answer. So I did adjust this problem a little bit. I actually put in a magnetic field in here that's not originally here. The original questions ask simply if there's a current going through this one, and this is a closed circuit. It's a coil just with a number of loops, and then this one is a open circuit with an amp meter. Is if this one were to be, the switch were to be thrown and it would go into a closed circuit, would there be any induced current? Would the current from this one affect this one? And the answer to that is no, because there's no interaction between them. The current from here isn't going to their EMF, there's no electric field being produced. There's no change in the flux between each of them, so there's no induced current between them. But now that would change simply by just taking this coil or this coil and moving them either past each other, through each other, and at that point you would get some sort of change in the flux. But now another thing we can kind of do with that, with the magnetic fields that I added in, is that we can kind of try to guess at which direction the currents would need to flow, which direction the currents are flowing. So here I have it drawn up to where the magnetic field is going into the board, so it is hitting pretty much the flat side of each coil. Okay, you kind of pretend that they're coils, so it's hitting the whole side. So it's hitting them, they're moving through them, but if you move them pretty much anywhere through there, you're gonna get some kind of flux. So whenever you're moving them through there, you're gonna be generating current, you're gonna be generating power. But the way we can kind of tell is if I were to take one of these coils, and let's say you see how it's sitting right here, and see it's kind of like the coil is coming like this, like kind of out of the page. If I were to take that coil and move it up through there, it would still create an electrical current just by going through a magnetic field, period. But if I were to take that coil and turn it like this, to where not as much as the coil was actually hitting the magnetic field, there would be a lot less flux. There would be a lot less change in flux, because there's less of that magnetic field hitting that coil, making an actual change in there. So that would actually change the direction of the induced current. And let's say the area of this is getting small. Like let's say it goes from let's say this is 2 millimeters on each side, 2 millimeters from here to here. If I were to change that to where it would be just 1 millimeter, as it was coming out of the page, like the coil was coming out of the page, but the magnetic field was still going into the page, it would create a induced current that would be coming out of the page, because it's trying to resist its change in flux. It wants to keep its magnetic field and everything the way it is right there. So it would create an induced current that would go against the magnetic field that would be coming out of the page, and the current would probably be running. So it's coming out of the page. The current would be running to the left right here, so it would be going like that to the left. I didn't know using. It'd be going to the left over here. So yeah, and I just kind of thought that this was pretty cool, because with just these two, we can kind of talk about everything that we talked about in chapter 20. And I know I didn't do really that good of a job, but I'll do this again.